In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, January 5th, here on the Korean Peninsula. US authorities say North Korea's short-range ballistic missiles have been used to attack Ukraine by Russia in recent times, raising greater regional concern over Pyongyang's military collaboration with Moscow. Meanwhile, the United Nations believes the global economy will see slower growth this year amid a host of challenges ranging from armed confrontations to climate disasters. And fueling further tensions in the Middle East, the Islamic State asserts it is to blame for the twin suicide bombings in Iran that killed and injured hundreds at a memorial service Wednesday afternoon. US officials say North Korea has provided short-range ballistic missiles to Russia in support of the latter's military aggression in Ukraine. Our Ising-jae has the top story.
According to a U.S. official, North Korea recently provided Russia with several dozen ballistic missiles, as well as ballistic missile launchers, as Moscow looks to restock its weapons stockpiles amid its prolonged war in Ukraine. Speaking to Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency on Thursday, the official said the arms exchange between the two comes as Russia has become increasingly isolated on the global stage and has been forced to look to like-minded states for military assistance due to sanctions and export controls. U.S. National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby confirmed the missile shipments, saying that Russian forces launched at least one of the North Korean missiles into Ukraine last Saturday and several more on Tuesday. Kirby added that the North Korean missiles sent have a range of 900 kilometers, adding that the shipment of missiles is a significant and concerning escalation in Pyongyang's support for Moscow. Washington assesses that the North is seeking military assistance from Russia in return for missile support, including fighter aircraft, surface-to-surface missiles, armored vehicles, and other advanced technologies. The comments from Washington come as the Wall Street Journal, citing U.S. government officials, also reported on Thursday that Russia had recently been receiving short-range ballistic missiles from North Korea. However, the report also indicated that Moscow plans to purchase short-range ballistic missiles from Tehran. It added that the North had begun shipping various weapons to Russia, while shipments of ballistic missiles had been sent for the first time. Meanwhile, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield said Thursday that Washington will formally raise the issue at the UN Security Council. The envoy stressed that both North Korea and Russia violated UNSC sanctions, which stipulate an arms embargo on Pyongyang. She says the issue will be raised next Wednesday when the UNSC holds a meeting on Ukraine. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
And staying on the peninsula, North Korea is literally taking concrete measures to restore its military posture against South Korea. According to defense sources here, the regime is rebuilding its guard posts within the demilitarized zone with concrete. Now, back in November, North Korea reinstalled the guard posts using wood after scrapping a cross-border military pact signed in 2018 aimed at easing tensions along the border. The regime's troops have also been deploying landmines on a road connecting the two Koreas. And Seoul's Unification Ministry is shuttering the agency that had been assigned with the legalities of operations at the cross-border manufacturing complex in Kaesong. Our Inter-Korean Affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil reports.
It's official. The Kaesong Industrial District Foundation will be shut down. An official at the South Korean Ministry of Unification told reporters the news on Thursday afternoon. The foundation had been in charge of legal procedures for South Korean companies operating in the Kaesong Industrial Complex in North Korea. The announcement comes more than 7 years since the KIC, where North Koreans had worked for South Korean firms, halted all operations back in February 2016 due to heightened military tensions between the two Koreas. The dream of operations restarting was shattered back in 2020 when Pyongyang blew up the Joint Liaison Office in the complex. The South Korean government's decision comes as military tensions rise on the Korean peninsula, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un calling it two Koreas, saying, quote, "The North-South relation is between two hostile states, not homogeneous ones," during his speech at the Workers' Party Central Committee meeting at the end of last year. The South Korean official added that the ministry will hold talks with South Korean companies that have facilities in the industrial complex within the next 2 weeks to explain how the ministry plans to continue supporting them on behalf of the foundation.
We have to understand that the Kaesong Industrial Complex served its purpose back at the time, but that's no longer the case. But we know that where North Korea's true heart was, and that happened to be nuclear development, not economic development.
Dr. Go added that it is important to focus on a new dynamic between the two Koreas as times have changed since the KIC was created. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
The United States has reaffirmed its concerns about religious freedom in a dozen countries, including North Korea. Our Yoon has details.
On Thursday, the United States released its annual assessment of religious freedom in countries around the world. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the list of countries that he said have engaged in or tolerated particular severe violations of religious freedom, keeping all 12 countries on the blacklist from the year before. Named as countries of particular concern are China, Cuba, Eritrea, Iran, Myanmar, Nicaragua, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, making it the 22nd consecutive year for North Korea to appear on the annually updated list. The 12 countries were on an original list of 17 countries recommended by the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom for designation as countries of particular concern in May 2023. The commission cited religious freedom in North Korea to be among the worst in the world, as those caught practicing religion or even suspected of harboring religious views in private are subject to severe punishment, including arrest, torture, imprisonment, and execution. Designated on a special watch list are Algeria, Azerbaijan, the Central African Republic, Comoros, and Vietnam, also for engaging in or tolerating severe violations of religious freedom. In his statement, Blinken recognized that significant violations of religious freedom are also occurring in countries not designated, and that efforts must be made by governments to end abuses and attacks on members of religious minority communities, particularly their places of worship. Since 1998, when the U.S. Congress passed the International Religious Freedom Act, the U.S. government has annually assessed religious freedom in countries around the world and issued designations of countries of concern. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the local political front, President Sagal has vetoed 2 bills spearheaded by the main opposition party for probes into high-profile allegations, including those against the First Lady. According to Chief of Staff Lee Kwon-sop on this Friday, the bills were passed unilaterally through, quote, the tyranny of the majority. The opposition Democratic Party holds 168 seats in the 300-seat National Assembly. He claimed the bills were crafted to exploit public sentiment ahead of the April general election. Now, First Lady Kim Gun-hee has been accused of stock manipulation, and an earlier investigation under the former Moon administration found no wrongdoing. The second bill seeks an investigation into 6 people suspected of bribery in a land development scandal. Meanwhile, President Sagal has shed light on the first mover strategy in innovation while pledging to expand R&D funding during his term in office. Speaking at a New Year's event on this Friday for those in the field of science and technology, he further underscored the importance of, quote, game-changing future technologies such as artificial intelligence, not only for global leadership but also for quality employment. He also took the occasion to remind the nearly 400 attendees of his intentions to install a senior secretary for science and technology to enhance productive communication between government officials and industry insiders. The global economy is looking at a weak expansion this year, but the Korean economy, for its part, is expected to buck the trend. Our Lee Kyung-eun explains.
2023 saw stronger than expected growth coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the UN projects a slowdown in the new year, forecasting a 2.4% growth rate. That's 0.3 percentage points lower than its previous estimate. The forecast comes on high interest rates, regional conflicts, sluggish international trade, and climate disasters, prompting the UN Secretary General to call for big, bold investments to put the global economy on a stronger growth path for all. Major economies will be among the hardest hit, like the U.S., the world's largest economy, whose growth is expected to drop to 1.4% this year from 2.5% last year. China is also projected to see a modest slowdown, with its growth estimated at 4.7%, while Europe and Japan are forecast to see 1.2% growth. However, the UN estimates the South Korean economy will grow in line with the global pace at 2.4%. There will be a major improvement from the 1.4% growth rate in 2023, which was hit by weak private spending. Despite high borrowing costs, the report points to a rebound in investment, which will lead to a higher growth in the new year. That is in line with South Korean government's predictions, with recovering exports to be another contributor. 이경은, Arirang News.
And staying with Korea's economy, the government is placing priority on the livelihoods of people amid high inflation and interest rates as it charts its economic policy for the year 2024. Our correspondent Moon has more.
A more positive economic landscape has set the tone to ease financial burdens for people and firms this year, as opposed to responding to economic risks.
With the recovery of global trade and the semiconductor industry, the economy is forecast to grow 2.2%, while the inflation rate is predicted to fall to 2.6%.
4 key areas of focus for policies have been outlined: restoring people's livelihoods, managing potential risks, creating a dynamic economic environment, and strengthening economic policies for future generations. To push inflation back down to the 2% range as soon as possible, the government is removing or lowering tariffs for a record number of fruits, 21 different types. And a group that was particularly affected by rising prices and interest rates was small business owners, prompting the government to plan a triple package of support for the first quarter of 2024. This includes reducing energy bills for more than 1 million of them, lowering loan interest rates, and expanding tax benefits. An issue which spiked towards the end of last year was the disruption of urea solution supplies from China, highlighting the need to diversify and keep track of sources of intermediate materials to keep prices low for domestic firms. The government is therefore making a database of 200 key items crucial for economic security and establishing a fund of around $7.6 billion to boost domestic production capabilities of listed items. South Korea is also planning for the future in 2024 by changing social stigmas that are contributing to its 4-year natural population decline, such as expanding the period of parental leave for both parents from 12 months to 18 months.
Career breaks for mothers are a serious issue, and the government needs to promote an environment where the workplace encourages the whole family to become involved in raising a child.
Boosting the research and development sector by temporarily increasing tax cuts by 10% for firms increasing R&D investment will also happen for the first time ever. So large companies that would have received tax credits of up to 25% of increment investments for R&D will now receive 35% of the amount. In addition to this, the government will be funding SMEs in 5 key sectors: chips, rechargeable batteries, bio, future mobility, and hydrogen industries, with a starting budget of roughly $2.3 billion. Moon, Arirang News.
Korea's Ramyeon saw stellar sales last year, boosted further by its frequent appearance in K-dramas, K-movies and K-shows. Well, to better respond to its growing popularity, specialized ramyeon stores have been popping up. Our An Sung-jin was there.
South Korean instant noodles, known as ramyeon, are becoming a hit across the world. Data from the Korea Customs Service shows ramyeon exports reached a record high last year, exceeding more than 1 trillion won. The value of exports from January to November 2023 reached 1.13 trillion won, or $875 million, surpassing the total value of exports in 2022. As ramyeon continues to gain popularity inside and outside of Korea, specialized stores are popping up, showcasing ramen's wide range of flavors. This convenience store in Hongdae, a popular neighborhood among both locals and tourists, displays more than 100 different types of ramyeon, where you can pick, choose, and cook your own on the spot.
Now, this entire section filled with ramyeon seeks to not only display an array of choice for those looking for a simple meal, but it's also attracting attention for tourists who come and check out the unique interior.
A store official stated that foreign customers account for 62% of the store's total ramen sales, and said they often purchase extra packs of ramyeon as souvenirs. The store sells an average of nearly 500 packs a day, 10 times that of regular convenience stores.
Ramen library was super interesting to us. So the reason why we wanted to come here was because we are mostly Shin fanatics, but we realized that there's so much more that Korea has to offer when it comes to the instant ramens, and so we wanted to see what it was all about and try something new.
I don't know how many kinds of ramen in Korean, but have this kind of press, so it's like clearly can show the foreigner what is the Korean's ramen culture.
Similarly, a local supermarket has created a section with more than 300 varieties of ramyeon. It has since seen a 34% increase in ramen sales. An expert noted that the emergence of such specialized stores, alongside the popularity of ramyeon, comes as Korean culture gains momentum.
Korean ramyeon has established itself as a representative Korean food mostly through K-pop artists and social media. Foreigners seem to be particularly attracted to the reasonable price, good quality, and variety of tastes. Also, more consumers have shown tendencies to delve into one sector and find satisfaction there.
As more consumers become enthusiasts in one specific category, stores specializing in one product could be on the rise, not just for ramyeon, but for other items too. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, a Sunni jihadist group with a notoriously aggressive ideology says it is to blame for the fatal suicide bombings in Iran that killed and injured hundreds at a memorial service Wednesday afternoon. Our Choi Soo-young has the latest.
The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the bombings at the memorial service for Iranian General Qasem Soleimani on Wednesday in Kerman that killed at least 84 people and injured 284. According to the Reuters, IS stated on Thursday via Telegram about the terror attack. On Thursday, Iran's IRNA news agency reported that 2 IS members wearing explosive vests carried out the attack. United States National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby also commented on the attack.
We have seen the public credit now that ISIS-K has taken for the attack in Iran. We're certainly in no position to doubt that claim by ISIS-K.
Islamic State is an extremist Sunni Islam group and is hostile to Iran because it considers Shia Islam as heresy and Iran is considered as a leader of Shia Islam. Iran designates IS as an extremist terrorist organization, though it also supports some other Sunni groups such as Hamas. The United Nations Security Council strongly condemned the bombing in Iran and emphasized the perpetrators and the forces behind the attack must be held accountable. The Security Council urged all UN members to actively cooperate with the Iranian government. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In the US, court documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were unsealed and released on Wednesday. The documents named many prominent figures, including former US President Bill Clinton and Britain's Prince Andrew. 40 documents made up of some 900 pages from a 2015 lawsuit filed against an associate of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, were released on the order of New York Judge Loretta Preska. However, no major new allegations about Epstein nor revelations about his associates were unveiled. Pop star Michael Jackson and magician David Copperfield were also named in the papers, albeit without any allegation of wrongdoing. Jeffrey Epstein was found guilty of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2009. He took his own life in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges in a high-profile sexual abuse and trafficking case involving many public figures. Myanmar's ruling military junta on Thursday pardoned almost 10,000 prisoners to mark the 76th anniversary of independence from British rule. According to state-run media, the chairman of the State Administration Council and head of Myanmar's ruling military junta, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, pardoned 9,652 prisoners. He also granted amnesty to 114 imprisoned foreigners who will be deported. However, former pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who is currently serving a 27-year sentence, was not among those released. Human rights group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners say 25,730 people have been imprisoned in Myanmar since the coup d'etat in February 2021, with 19,930 still in detention as of Wednesday. In Russia, the country's capital, Moscow, had its lowest temperature in 74 years on Thursday. In some districts of the city, the temperature plunged to minus 27 degrees Celsius. That's the coldest since the minus 29 degrees recorded on January 3, 1950. According to the Russian Meteorological Office, an anticyclone pushed down this week's temperature to around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius lower than the average for January. The severe cold spell is expected to last until after the Russian Orthodox Christian Christmas this Sunday. 13-year-old American gamer Willis Gibson has beaten the classic Nintendo version of the game Tetris, a game designed to be played endlessly by breaking it. On December 21st last year, Gibson reached what gamers call a kill screen on level 157, a point where the Tetris code glitches, leading the game to crash. Tetris CEO Maya Rogers stated that Gibson's victory is a monumental achievement. The game was released on the original Nintendo Entertainment System in 1989. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Comfortable winter temperatures continue today with figures staying above the season norms. Then there will be a freezing weekend just in time for Sohan. In the seasonal calendar, things get much colder around this time. The next Monday morning, the commute will be a bone-chilling one with an expected low of minus 9 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. We haven't had sunshine for more than a week in the capital area because of dust coverage. Today looks to be no different with higher dust levels due to more dust blowing in from overseas. There could be a light mix of rain and snow in the east of Gyeonggi-do and west of Gangwon-do province today, so please drive carefully out there. Afternoon highs are 1 to 5 degrees higher than Thursday. Seoul seeing a high of 8 degrees. Busan, Gyeongju topping out at 13 degrees Celsius this afternoon. The cold snap that's on its way will only last through next Monday. Then temperatures will jump right back to above norms next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. And those are the top stories at this hour here in Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.